On January 27, 2025, $600 billion vanished in a single day. Not from a crash, not from a recession, not from a war, from a chatbot. A Chinese AI startup released a model that rivaled the best American AI, trained on a fraction of the compute. The market's assumption that you needed billions in hardware to compete shattered overnight. Nvidia lost 17%, the biggest single-day market cap loss in stock market history. What if that was just the beginning? And what does it mean for the thousands of people who bet their careers on the AI boom never slowing down? To understand what DeepSeek did, you need to understand what Nvidia had become. Not just a chip company, the backbone of the entire AI revolution. In 2022, Nvidia was worth $300 billion. By early 2025, it had crossed $3.4 trillion, the fastest wealth creation in corporate history. Jensen Huang, Nvidia's CEO, became one of the richest people on Earth. Why? Because training AI requires massive computing power, and Nvidia makes the best chips for that. Period. Every major tech company was spending billions on Nvidia chips. Microsoft, Google, Meta, Amazon, OpenAI, they were all racing to build the most powerful AI, and the only way to do it was through Nvidia. In Austin, Texas, a 34-year-old infrastructure engineer named Tomasz had joined an AI startup 6 months earlier, left a stable job at Dell, took a pay cut, took equity instead. The startup was building enterprise AI tools, and their entire technical stack ran on Nvidia H100s, $12 million in GPU leases per year. Tomasz believed the bet was simple: AI demand only goes up. Then a company called DeepSeek changed everything. DeepSeek was founded by Liang Wenfeng, a Chinese hedge fund manager who got interested in AI. In January 2025, they released DeepSeek R1, an AI model that rivaled GPT-4 across multiple benchmarks: reasoning, coding, mathematics. The reported compute cost for the final training run, roughly $6 million. Now, that number needs context. DeepSeek had thousands of GPUs acquired before export restrictions, but the headline was what mattered: a fraction of the compute, competitive results. If efficient training could match brute force, why did anyone need to spend billions on Nvidia hardware? That question wiped $600 billion from Nvidia's market cap in 24 hours, and that was just the warning shot. Here's the decision that made DeepSeek possible, and almost made it unstoppable. In October 2022, the US government banned the export of advanced Nvidia chips to China. The H100, the A100. China couldn't buy it. The logic was clear: if China can't access the best chips, they can't build the best AI. America stays ahead. It backfired spectacularly. Cut off from the best hardware, Chinese AI researchers had to innovate differently. They couldn't throw money at the problem, they had to think their way around it. DeepSeek's engineers developed breakthrough techniques in model efficiency. They figured out how to train powerful AI with fewer, less advanced chips. They optimized architectures and training pipelines that the American labs, drowning in hardware, had no incentive to develop. Now imagine the decision point goes differently. What if, in late January 2025, the US government went beyond chip export controls? What if they banned DeepSeek itself, blocked it from operating or publishing research? US officials debated whether DeepSeek represented a national security threat. Some argued for an immediate ban, like TikTok, shut it down before it grows. Others argued that banning published research was impossible. You can't unring a bell. The moderates won. DeepSeek wasn't banned, but what if the hawks had prevailed? January 28, 2025. Emergency Executive Order. DeepSeek is designated a national security threat. All US persons and companies are prohibited from using DeepSeek technology. The stock market reacts instantly. Nvidia surges 15% in pre-market. The $600 billion that evaporated the day before comes roaring back. Wall Street exhales. The AI boom is back on track. The narrative is restored. You need billions in chips to build frontier AI. Nvidia is still the gatekeeper. Hyperscalers continue their planned spending. $475 billion in AI infrastructure in 2026, most of it flowing through Nvidia. Tomasz's startup celebrates. Their Series B closes at a $400 million valuation. The GPU shortage narrative is intact. Tomasz's equity is worth $2 million on paper. Here's the uncomfortable truth about the alternate timeline. AI gets more expensive, not less. Without DeepSeek proving that efficient training was possible, the major labs keep throwing hardware at problems instead of solving them with better algorithms. which means AI tools stay expensive, which means small companies can't afford them. The AI revolution benefits only the biggest corporations. The democratization of AI gets delayed by years. What happens to China? DeepSeek's ban doesn't stop Chinese AI research. It drives it underground. No more open source releases. China's AI development becomes a black box. The US intelligence community loses visibility into how fast they're advancing. And here's the most important part of the alternate timeline. The efficiency techniques DeepSeek discovered don't disappear. The researchers still exist. The mathematics is still true. The papers were already downloaded thousands of times before any ban. Within 18 months, a European research lab independently discovers the same techniques, then a Canadian team, then an Indian startup. You can ban a company. You can't ban a mathematical insight. By 2027, the same efficiency revolution happens anyway, just 2 years later, without DeepSeek getting credit. And Nvidia gets hit just as hard, just in 2027 instead of 2025. And Tomasz, his startup's $12 million GPU moat becomes a $12 million anchor. The equity that was worth $2 million, worth nothing. The alternate timeline didn't prevent the disruption, it just delayed it. Everyone is talking about DeepSeek as a threat, a shock, a disruption, but here's the question nobody is asking. What if DeepSeek is the best thing that ever happened to American AI? Think about it. Before DeepSeek, American AI labs were getting comfortable, throwing money at problems instead of solving them. The assumption was, whoever has the most chips wins. Innovation was being replaced by brute force. DeepSeek forced every American lab to ask, are we building AI efficiently or are we just burning cash? Within weeks of DeepSeek's release, Google, OpenAI, and Meta all announced efficiency initiatives. New architectures, better training techniques, less waste. The $600 billion Nvidia lost in one day, it came back within 3 months. Because investors realized the AI boom wasn't over. It was getting more efficient, more accessible. And here's the deeper irony. The export ban on Nvidia chips, the policy designed to keep China behind, accidentally created DeepSeek. America's attempt to win the AI race by cutting off hardware created a competitor that figured out how to need less hardware. The lesson is brutal and simple. In technology, you cannot win by restricting access. You can only win by innovating faster. DeepSeek didn't destroy Nvidia. It made the entire AI industry better. And Tomasz, in the real timeline, his startup pivoted within weeks, renegotiated their GPU contracts, started building on efficient open source architectures. Sometimes the disruption that terrifies you is the disruption that saves you. Here's where we actually are. DeepSeek wasn't banned. Its research spread globally. Dozens of companies built on its efficient architecture. AI costs dropped dramatically. Nvidia recovered and remains worth over $3 trillion. The disruption was real. The AI industry was forced to reckon with efficiency. The era of unlimited GPU spending as a competitive strategy was over. 3 lessons from this story. First, restrictions create innovation. The US chip ban was designed to keep China behind. Instead, it forced Chinese engineers to innovate around the restrictions and build something the American labs hadn't bothered to build. Every obstacle in technology eventually becomes an innovation driver. Second, open source is unstoppable. Once DeepSeek published its research, the knowledge couldn't be contained. Banning the company wouldn't have banned the insight. You can ban a company, you cannot ban mathematics. Third, efficiency always wins eventually. The assumption that whoever spends the most wins has never been permanently true in technology. The PC beat the mainframe. The smartphone beat the PC. Efficient AI will beat expensive AI. The only question is when. DeepSeek didn't destroy Nvidia, but it sent a message the entire industry needed to hear. The AI race isn't won by the biggest spender, it's won by the best thinker. And in that race, the finish line keeps moving. $600 billion one day, one chatbot. And a question the entire tech industry is still answering. You can ban a chip, you can ban a company, you can ban an app, but you cannot ban a mathematical insight. That's the lesson of DeepSeek. Was DeepSeek a threat or a gift? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe for more. See you next time.